Robert, there's a lot of condos listed in the downtown Toronto condo market, thousands upon thousands of them. They're not moving. Some of them, if any of our real estate chat viewers have watched our previous episode, make sure you click like and subscribe so you don't miss any. You'll know that a couple of them fall into a specific category. The question is this, Robert, if you were selling a downtown Toronto condo today amidst the thousands of them on the market, how would you set it apart and what would you do differently that the thousands of other sellers maybe aren't doing?
Okay. If nobody is buying, then I can do nothing. And it doesn't matter whether I'm the greatest realtor, registered real estate broker, whatever you want to call it, in the world. If nothing is being bought, then the only thing I can do is, well, as I said to John Kennedy, you either need patience or a price reduction. And many people have a greater store hold and affinity for patience than to drop the price, particularly people that think they're going to lose money if they sell it at the currently available price. Like if the only people who are opportunistic, let's call them vulture specs, if they're willing to pay, and let's pick a number, $500,000 for your thing that you believe is worth $600,000, but you really want 650 because in order to get 650, then you can pay off all your expenses and everything's great. It's a real problem. So any of these times when a property, be it a detached bungalow or a semi-detached or a row house or a condo downtown, is not selling, always the person that bears the responsibility is the registrant that has the listing. They must be doing something wrong. They must be doing something stupid. They must be incompetent to handle the problem. But if there are no buyers, there are no buyers. If you won't sell it for 500, that you want 600 or you want 650, well, you're the problem. Now, if we hear that rents are at record prices, well, put it up for rent. Get some revenue coming from it, refinance it based on that new flow of income. Don't come.
Well, I mean, to be fair, some think that it's the realtor's problem. On this episode of Real Estate Chat with Robert Eid, and
John Perez.
I'm going
We
to
need
share with
our
you.
introductions. My goodness, we're a rambling, bambling family here.
Well, if anybody's watching this far, here's the article. I can only drop the price so much. Toronto Star. Inside one condo owner is this desperate attempt to sell in Toronto's ghost town market. We'll share the link to this article so you can read it in full, but we will paraphrase it for you. Basically, this gentleman is the one who's selling his condo, and it's a fantastic story because he bought a condo at a certain price. Needless to say, it's no longer at that price. The condo is literally. Have you watched what is it called? Water World, where everything is underwater, basically.
Oh, it's a movie from a long time ago.
This is a movie from a long time ago, if I have it right. Yeah, so condos are underwater, not literally. Okay, there's my dad joke of the day. But the problem here is that, as Robert alluded to, there's a certain price that this condo was at when it was purchased, and there was a certain price where that gentleman who purchased this condo thinks it should be at because, again, I
Doesn't
gotta
want
pay
to
my
lose
mortgage.
money. He doesn't want
I
to
want to
lose
lose money.
money.
I got to pay my mortgage. I got to pay the realtors. And so the solution to drop the price, Robert said, is fire your realtor. Like, who needs a realtor to sell in this market where there are thousands of listings listed with lots of realtors? I'll fire my realtor so that I can get more money in my pocket.
Reduce
That
my
would be
expenses, reduce my selling costs.
reduces my expenses. But then, yeah, sure, yes. For those of you watching for the first time, Robert and I are realtors, real estate brokers. Uh, yes, you have options, as we mentioned in previous episodes. You could sell your property for yourself. So this gentleman took the listing off the MLS, fired the realtor, and said, you know what, I can do this. I'll sell my property myself, drop the price a bit. And as far as the article goes, it's
Well,
still
here's the good thing. He realizing he would be spending 20,000 in realtor commission. He decided to cut ties with his realtor, advertise his own. Today he spent $2,000, which he'll never get back, on social media platforms and other sites, and spends a couple of hours daily posting his listing in 40 Facebook groups. So he's taken on a full-time job for months instead of maybe paying a commission if the guy or girl gets him what he wants. So this is short-term thinking by someone who paid too much and then rented it out in the meantime as an Airbnb. And then the condo decided that they didn't want to have these strangers and raucous parties all the time in their nice residential building. And so said no more Airbnb. And so now he's scuppered because his plan to be so smart and buy something for 652 in the middle of COVID when rules were all different, interest rates were dirt cheap, and then rent it out as an Airbnb where the people are paying a tremendous amount nightly instead of a hotel room, which is like an illegal commercial use in a residential suite, should never have been permitted, is a stupid business for residential real estate. Now he's complaining that he doesn't want to lose money. Well, it's an investment. Sometimes you lose money on investments, especially if they're boneheaded investments done for the wrong reasons. You can't blame anyone else for your own boneheaded plays. If you buy well, you sell well. If you buy stupid, you will sell stupid. Get ready for it. Write it off against your taxes.
And we'll put that on a t-shirt. But Robert, there are real estate chat viewers who are in this situation, and sadly, some of them
That's
was
right. No, if
because of
if the beautiful girl
was
from
yeah
Toronto Star
was
had not glamorized this situation so much as if he was blameless, I would not have the attitude
and he's not
I've
the
just
this is
conveyed.
not the only seller, and unfortunately, the Toronto Star picks the only seller that had the most extravagant story of riches to rags. I don't know what you want to what you want to call
It's not
this.
sold yet either. It's not
It's not
sold yet
sold.
either.
No, as far
So
as we
there's
know.
no solution. This is just cry, cry, cry. The sky's falling on me. I'm a poor baby
But
victim.
let's okay, but let's help the ones that are in genuine situations where, for example,
Yes, Daddy.
they had
Yes,
bought,
yes, yes. What should we
they had
do?
bought, they had bought. For
Okay.
those we do empathize with, they had bought in a situation where they genuinely living in their unit. They're not vulture specs. That's another term that you came up with. They're not vulture specs, but they genuinely had to be there. But the interest rates have gone up. Perhaps they lost their job during that time period. Perhaps they lost their job now and they can't keep things afloat. They
Mhm.
need to sell. Or the situation where it's a young family. Now they're expecting their first child. They need a larger space. Well, let's tackle it one by one because these are all different scenarios.
That's right.
The ones who cannot afford to be in the condos and they live there, they're not renting it out, they're not Airbnb-ing it to party goers. Ones who really genuinely need to sell, they take a hit. That hit could be the equivalent of their entire savings that they put as a down payment. How do you move on from that?
Now, in order to sell, you have to go somewhere. In order to do anything, you have to know your destination before you decide on what you're going to do with your current asset, because the asset is fixed, but where you're going will determine the viability of the decision that you're contemplating. So if they can't swing the existing condo because of maternity leave, whatever the reason, let's say it's really a good reason, it's just a family thing that happened, someone had a terrible accident, stuff like that, then what are they going to do next? Now, if the thing that they're going to move into is just as expensive as what they're going to do, what they're now, or just a tiny bit more, then why are they going through all that anguish? They got to find somewhere to boost up their own income or boost up the income that comes from the real property. So we can't generalize. We can look at specifics because there's always something that, oh yes, but, oh yes, but, oh yes, but. That's why your solution doesn't work. If you are underwater, you have to decide, is it going to be better next year and the year after, or is it as good as it's going to get now? And if it's as good as it's going to get now, then you have to just bite the bullet and sell, and that's it. Goodbye. But where are you going to go? If that's just as bad as here, you tough it out where you are. You bought that for a reason. Now, if you don't like where you are, now you're really in a spot. You bought in an adverse market. You were a buyer in a seller's market. Now you're a seller in a buyer's market. It happens. Sorry. Now you either are moving to Bancroft and you can remote learn and remote work from there or not. Ottawa is humming along because their average price is like 750. They're humming, but they're still got the same buyers. They have no spec market. The spec market is what was driving things in Toronto for so long. Our market forever was driven by first-time buyers that bought it, who would buy that tiny little recce shack in the East End and fix it up. And then that person would buy a semi, and then that person would buy a small bungalow, and then that person would buy a side split. So the specs that were driving it from the bottom and these condo developers that were putting in the 500 square foot units for those specs, it's gone away. So there's an adjustment that's got to come through. Will everything come down? Nobody wants that to happen. The only way out of this is for inflation to move things up. So your question, what do you do? If you're in a pickle, decide what you're going to do next. Look at your monthly payments. Look at your income stream. What are your job prospects? What's going to change? Are you better off where you are now? Don't blame it on somebody else. You bought it. You're living there. You got there somehow.
So take responsibility. And mind you, there are condo sales. So everybody's looking at one side of the equation, which is there's a lot of condos listed. Yes, there's a ton of condos listed, but there are also still sales, not enough to
Exactly. And a lot of those condos are unsaleable because they have a tenant in there that nobody wants. They're for sale. And you're ticking off the tenant, and the tenant's ticking him off by denying showings. Like there's a lot of frustration over the landlord and tenant rules that were abused by landlords, now are being used by tenants. But so not all of those listings are saleable because they can't be occupied. And the only person that's buying now is an owner occupant. And
So
they're sitting in the sidelines because they think prices are going to come down. What
go
a
through the
mess.
list. Go through the list. Tenant, is it tenant occupied? Does it show well? Is it easily accessible? I mean, if it's a tenanted property, how do you get showings in? You have to buy the tenant out. I mean,
Mhm.
money is going to be a factor with that. And ultimately price. I mean, realtors are not magicians. Like there seems to be this concept of I hired the best realtor, I expect to get this price. Right? Realtors are not just, they set a price and it sells magically, right? Realtors do a lot more different. And I don't want, forget, I don't want to turn this into an endorsement for realtors. It doesn't matter. The point is, if your unit is not saleable, there's going to be a factor of price because everything comes down to price. Sorry to oversimplify it, but that's what it is.
And if it's nobody's buying, it doesn't matter whether you're selling privately or selling on Google or selling on MLS. If nobody's buying, the buyers there are buying what's advantageous for them, not what's advantageous for you. So when you realize that, then you decide what's the best disposition of this asset. Maybe I should keep it. Maybe I should rent it. Maybe I should rent it furnished. But
And there's nothing wrong
sometimes
with
you
that.
just, yeah,
Every realtor out there wants to sell you your unit. Robert and I say do what you best for you. Keep your unit if you can keep it. Rent it out, move back to your parents' basement. Doesn't matter. Right? Do the right thing for you. If you have any questions for us, write it into the comments or reach out to Robert and I. You can Google us. Right? Stay tuned, take care, and bye for
see you
now. Have
later.
a great summer.
Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.